Wonderful to have you all with us back here. We've had many fruitful discussions here throughout the day, and now this is the time to have the grand finale, to have the closing remarks, to wrap up a very busy but content-rich day, ladies and gentlemen. And now, first up, without further ado, the Prime Minister of Ukraine, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome again Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal.
Excellencies, dear experts, ladies and gentlemen, dear Mr. Federal Chancellor, dear Madam President of European Commission, thank you all so much for this tough day, tough schedule. I believe and I know that these expert and scientific discussions are very productive, very pragmatic, very fruitful, and we have first impressions and they're very positive. I hope that during the next days we will have these conclusions of our conference, our meetings, and we will have very good advices how to continue our work after the Lugano conference in sense of recovery of Ukraine. And I think that this conference is logic continuation of Lugano conference and is beginning of our future big job, big work for recovery of Ukraine, for modernization of Ukraine, for modernization all of Europe, and maybe for modernization of world in future. So we all together today create our future. For my country in direct sense, our future. Thank you all for this. And I would like to express my biggest appreciation and big gratitude to co-host, co-organizers, Mr. Olaf, Madam Ursula. Thank you so much for organization of such a great event. I think that expert level today was very high, and very good results will create next steps. Next steps, as for me, should be on the platform for coordination of finances and maybe economical and other coordination platforms. But first of all, today we have a previous agreement to organize a financial coordination platform on the basis of J7, international financial organizations, IMF, European Investment Bank, OECD, other financial organizations, and our partners which support Ukraine today. As I told, united in support, united in recovery, it's one of the main principles which we all approved in Lugano. So, as today Chancellor Scholz noted, we all don't organize something for make it like once action. We will have continuation of our work. We will have coordination platform. We will have on board United States, European Union, our J7 partners, and all international financial organizations. We understand that we need prioritization, and we discussed this today, that we need support of budget deficit, we need financing of rapid recovery needs and needs assessment. We need recovery and modernization of Ukraine and find these key issues for modernization for next years and maybe decades, as also Chancellor noted today during his speech. And I think that today's priorities are very natural, because during these 2 weeks, Russians destroy our infrastructure, electricity infrastructure, heating infrastructure, water supply infrastructure, creating the biggest ever humanitarian catastrophe on the European continent. And to stop this, we need to unite our efforts, and we need to create something to resist of these intentions of terrorist country Russia. We should protect our energy, water supplying, heating. We should find format how in very fast way to recover infrastructural objects, and we should find altogether a way how to protect our infrastructure, civilian infrastructure and critical infrastructure. So it's also very important, and I'm sure that during this conference experts discuss these issues, and we also will have support and will have concrete decisions from our partners. So once again, for the finishing of my speech, my conclusions, thank you all who participate today, who spent this day, who spent weeks for preparation of this conference, for preparation of your conclusion, your advices, to all experts, to all Nobel laureates, to all our partners, to President of Switzerland, to Polish Prime Minister, who are now not with us but participate in this conference, to all our friends and partners. Thank you so much. Dear Olaf, dear Ursula, thank you so much. All the best to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister Šmihal, for your concluding remarks. You've already laid out some of the steps that ought to be, or rather must be, taken from here on. The German G7 presidency is ending at the end of the year, and Japan is the country that is going to take over the torch starting at the beginning of next year. And the Prime Minister of Japan, unfortunately, couldn't be here, but he didn't want to pass up the opportunity to address this distinguished audience and send us a video message for all of you here on stage and in the audience. So let's have a look. Prime Minister of Japan, Fumio Kishida, was kind enough to send us his message, his words. Let's see what he has to say.
日本国総理大臣の岸田文雄です。はじめに今回の専門家会議を主催されるショルツドイツ首相およびフォンデアライエン欧州委員会委員長に敬意を表します。またゼレンスキー大統領をはじめウクライナの皆様との連帯を改めて強調したいと思います。民間人や民間施設を含むウクライナ各地へのミサイル攻撃、またロシアによる核兵器の威嚇、これは決して認められず、ロシアを強く非難します。国際社会が結束して対ロ制裁とウクライナ支援を強力に推進していくことが重要です。ウクライナの復興にあたっては、第一にそれがウクライナのオーナーシップに基づいたものとなること、第二に支援に従事するすべての国、機関、企業が復興の全体像を共有し、そして第三に国際ルールやスタンダードに従って透明かつ公正な形で活動がなされることが不可欠です。また EU や本会議に参加している関係国をはじめとする幅広い国際社会の支援を得られる枠組みとすることが必要です。日本としてこれまでに行ってきた避難民保護、支援、保健医療サービスの提供、食料支援に加え、これから厳しい冬を迎えるウクライナ国内において、避難民受け入れセンターの暖房整備や防寒具の供与をはじめとする越冬支援も行ってきています。また、日本独自の知見と強みを生かしたウクライナ支援を行っていきます。例えば、ロシアによる侵略で生じた瓦礫処理のため、日本が2011年の東日本大震災の際に経験した瓦礫の分別や再利用の技術などもウクライナ政府と共有していきます。今後もウクライナの人々が必要とする支援を一層積極的に行っていきます。本日ご出席の皆様のご知見、ご議論が包括的な復興再建に向けた 具体的な取り組み、そしてウクライナ国内での必要な改革の実現につながっていくよう、日本としてもしっかり関与していきます。さらに日本は来年 G7 議長国になります。ウクライナにおける一刻も早い平和の回復及び復興の実現に向け、国際社会の議論を積極的にリードしていきます。本日の会議の成功裏の開催にお祝いを申し上げます。日本は常にウクライナと共にあります。
Many thanks to Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida for his words, for the video he submitted, the country that is going to take over the torch from Germany at the beginning of next year. We wish them best of luck, and it's clear from his words that he's trying to and he wants to use the momentum provided by forums like these and make them flourish and continue. Right next is up the president of a country that is currently holding the presidency of the G20. In fact, many of you, I can imagine, will be at the G20 summit in Bali next month. And he also didn't want to pass up the opportunity to address this audience. He's, of course, Indonesian President Joko Widodo, and we will hear from him now.
Yang Mulia, perang selalu menghasilkan tragedi kemanusiaan yang mewariskan trauma dan kemunduran. Rumah dan bangunan luluh lantak, sekolah dan rumah sakit hancur, jutaan rakyat terlantar dan mengungsi, dan angka kemiskinan pasti meningkat. Bank Dunia memperkirakan biaya rekonstruksi Ukraina sudah mencapai 349 miliar dolar Amerika Serikat dan akan terus bertambah jika perang berlanjut. Lebih dari itu, dampak jangka panjang harus dimitigasi sejak dini. Sebagian masyarakat menanggung cacat fisik selamanya, trauma psikologis yang tidak mudah hilang, serta anak-anak yang kehilangan masa kebahagiaan dan pembelajaran. Kita semua perlu bahu-membahu mengambil langkah-langkah konkret untuk membantu rakyat Ukraina. Yang Mulia, pertama, diplomasi damai harus dikedepankan dan perang harus segera dihentikan. Pemulihan dan rekonstruksi mustahil dilakukan jika perang berlanjut. Kepentingan rakyat Ukraina harus didahulukan. Sekali lagi, perdamaian harus menjadi prioritas kita semua untuk melangkah ke depan. Yang kedua, rekonstruksi harus tepat sasaran. Konferensi ini kesempatan baik untuk mengidentifikasi kebutuhan real dan urgent di lapangan agar bantuan kita terasa manfaatnya oleh rakyat Ukraina. Pandangan pemerintah Ukraina harus didengar. Perlu koordinasi terbuka dan inklusif antar donor agar tidak ada tumpang tindih. Di sini peran PBB menjadi penting. Komitmen Indonesia mendukung rekonstruksi rumah sakit setelah berkonsultasi dengan pemerintah Ukraina. Indonesia juga sudah mengirimkan bantuan kemanusiaan sesuai kebutuhan Ukraina. Ketiga, rakyat Ukraina harus dipulihkan dan diberdayakan. Rekonstruksi harus diarahkan untuk menyelamatkan masa depan rakyat Ukraina. Kebutuhan fisik dan kesehatan mental mereka, terutama anak-anak korban perang, harus diutamakan. Jutaan pengungsi perlu direpatriasi. Jutaan rakyat yang kehilangan pekerjaan dan jatuh miskin perlu didukung untuk mampu bangkit kembali. Yang Mulia, saya mengharapkan konferensi ini bisa digunakan untuk mempertemukan perbedaan-perbedaan. Bulan depan saat KTT G20 di Bali, Indonesia mengundang semua termasuk pihak yang bertiga untuk duduk bersama dan berdialog secara konstruktif. Hanya dengan demikian kita dapat menciptakan fondasi yang kokoh bagi proses rekonstruksi. Mari kita bekerja sama untuk pulihkan Ukraina. Terima kasih.
Thank you to Indonesian President Joko Widodo for his remarks, for his video, and he will see many of you in a little less than a month in Bali to once again pick up many of the issues that we've discussed today and incorporate them into the G20 summit in Bali. We're going to wrap up this conference the way we started, namely, of course, with remarks from our two co-hosts. First up, once again, please help me welcoming back on to the podium none other than the President of the European Commission, President von der Leyen. You have the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was an excellent conference, and I really thank you for all the contributions, all the wisdom, all the expertise that you brought to the table. The main message of the day for me today is that Ukraine has everything it takes for a successful reconstruction. It has determination, it has a vibrant civil society, many friends around the globe who want to support, this was visible today, and an impressively resilient economic base despite this atrocious war. For example, the Ukrainian banking sector or the IT sector. For me, always the level of digitalization, dear Dennis, that you have in Ukraine is impressive. Listen to that. After Estonia, Ukraine is probably the most digitized country in Europe, and that is something. This really allows public services to function despite the war, and this is our daily experience in the Commission. When we work together with you, you have a functioning administration despite a war around you, and this is basically because you are so much digitized. I do not want to reflect anymore on the topics that we have mentioned this morning in the welcome addresses, but allow me to focus on a few takeaways from today's discussion. The first one is give ownership to the locals, creating trust in the reconstruction process. It was interesting for me to hear that the original Marshall Plan was successful because independent experts were embedded into ministries. They ensure transparency over key decisions, and we know money cannot solve everything. You need the right institutions. So scrutiny is, and that was interesting for me, to monitor the influence of donors. And Ukraine civil society is well equipped to take over this role. My second takeaway, to tap into the full power of Ukraine's human capital and to accelerate the green and the digital transition, there should be continuity of decentralization, because the regions and the municipalities are also economic powerhouses. This decentralization, together with the necessary judicial and anti-corruption reforms, would of course also facilitate private investment across the country. The third point, reconstruction linked with a dynamic EU accession process can function as a catalyst, as it was said today here, for necessary reforms, and at the same time, and this is certainly true, as a strong motivator to implement these reforms, because there's a goal you want to go to, and therefore you understand why you have to do these reforms. The fourth point, self-explanatory, a new Marshall Plan for Ukraine has to match the European Green Deal. This is the opportunity to leapfrog into a modern, competitive and sustainable economy. I like the fifth point that crossed my way. Donors' coordination should prevail over donors' competition. And the better the reconstruction plan is explained, the easier for donors to contribute. Finally, today, and that's absolutely clear, we saw that we will be in this for a long time. Support fatigue might be a challenge. But one participant brought up an interesting counter-argument. It is about the importance of communication. She mentioned that politics cannot and should not be separated from the reconstruction process. Putin's brutality is causing tremendous suffering and destruction in Ukraine. But at the same time, these ruthless deeds are backfiring. People's disgust with Putin is a powerful recruiter for Ukraine's rehabilitation efforts. It fuels the new Marshall Plan. And Dennis, I must say, when I listened to you this morning, I was again really moved and touched by the pictures, the videos you showed us. I mean, this is the reality on the ground you are experiencing every day. But when you see it again, it really touches you. And the way President Zelensky and you are communicating to the public is contributing a lot to keep Ukraine on top of the world's agenda and to mobilize lasting support for your country on the world stage. And Ukraine deserves it. Slava Ukraini.
Thank you, Madam President, for your unambiguous and unwavering commitment and support for Ukraine, for the recovery and reconstruction of your country, Prime Minister. And we're going to finish a long day the way we started it, namely with remarks by the German Chancellor, the country that is currently holding the G7 presidency, and to help us put this all together here in Berlin today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back German Chancellor Olaf Scholz.
Ladies and gentlemen, first let me thank all participants for joining us here today for this important global dialogue in Berlin. My very special thanks to President Zelensky for addressing us this morning, and to Prime Minister Shmyhal and his colleagues who are here with us today, and most importantly, the people of Ukraine. This has been an international expert conference. President von der Leyen and I sought to bring the best and brightest minds together to discuss with delegations from around the world the recovery and reconstruction of Ukraine. I'm happy to see the great interest also from civil society and business, as we need all actors for a successful recovery. Participation from all over the world through our live stream shows significant global interest. Today's discussion showed once again that the size of the reconstruction challenge is impressive. The experts' contributions proved that the core elements of recovery, reconstruction and modernization are very closely linked with each other. Therefore, we need the guidance by experts, and as seen today, to identify solutions to this complex challenge. This conference has confirmed my optimism. I take from the panel discussions that there are not only challenges ahead, but also clear and coherent recommendations and concrete ways to actively create a better future for and with Ukraine. Tonight, we have a better picture on which factors are most important to make the recovery and reconstruction of Ukraine a success for Ukraine, for Europe, and for the international community. The recommendations which the experts have developed over the last weeks, voiced today, will play a vital role now, while our Ukrainian colleagues will continue to refine their national recovery plan. The recommendations will now inform ongoing international policy discussions. As international community, we will continue to prepare the architecture for a robust and inclusive governance framework to guide our support. As G7 presidency, we will continue our work on such a governance framework in close coordination with the European Union, international organizations and other partners in the G7 and beyond, and of course with Ukraine, as we have done throughout our presidency this year. Lugano has been the starting point for the recovery of Ukraine. We have continued this important work today, and we will continue to keep pushing forward on this. Let me assure you that also beyond the end of our G7 presidency, Germany will continue to play a strong role to support Ukraine where we can. And we are happy to confirm our offer to host the follow-up Lugano conference in 2024. I close this conference by sharing with you my conviction, which you have strengthened today. In light of the latest attacks, now more than ever, the recovery of a peaceful and prosperous Ukraine is our joint endeavor. I'm convinced that we are stronger together. We continue to stand together in supporting Ukraine as long as it takes.
Let me just say some concluding remarks. While you're standing here with me, let me just say this officially concludes the International Expert Conference on the recovery, reconstruction and modernization of Ukraine. But I think it has become abundantly clear this is not a one-time initiative. Quite on the contrary, this is just the beginning. And as Madam President said, we are in this in the long run. The expertise, let me just say this also, the expertise generated today will be included in existing formats such as the annual Ukraine Recovery Reform Conference hosted by the UK next year. And with that, Herr Bundeskanzler, Madam President and Prime Minister, thank you so much for a content-rich, very rewarding and inspiring debate and conference. May all the debate, may all the dreams, may all the inputs come true before too long. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.